Let's take a minute for our audience to join us. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. Welcome to the Persecution Report. Tonight's episode exposes what experts describe as gross violation of Article 21 and Article 22 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the right to peaceful assembly and the right to association. Since Mohammad Yunus came to power in Bangladesh and his interim government, one of the earliest actions set an alarming precedent. It swiftly suspended the registration of the Bangladesh Awami League, the largest political party of Bangladesh. Bangladesh Awami League is not just another political party. It is widely believed that at least 40% of Bangladeshi population actively supports Bangladesh Awami League. Citizens of such a vast majority, such proportion, are deprived of their political rights. And today we discuss this right, which is violated grossly by Mohammad Yunus and his interim government. Joining me today, Dr. Masum Billah, a professor of law, Barrister Taposh Kanti Baul, a barrister and a human rights activist, and co-host Anwar Sadid Jihan, a columnist and aerospace engineer. First, I would ask Jihan to take us through the situation, just give us a better understanding.
Thank you, Mr. Alam, for connecting me today. And many thanks to Professor Billah and Barrister Ball for taking the time to join us and share your expertise with us and our viewers today. Before I dive deep into today's discussion, let us take a look at the 1 year between August 2024 and now. So in 2024, Bangladesh was doing really great. It was achieving great things, and Bangladesh was well on its way to achieve the dream of being a Golden Bengal. The Padma Bridge became a reality that changed the way that the North and South connects. Bangladesh has recently accomplished the Metro Rail project that changed the way that the residents of Dhaka travels, that changed their lives. While all these great things were happening, a group of conspirators, national and international, were teaming up against the Awami League government. Then the unthinkable happened. The democratically elected Awami League government was ousted in August 2024 in a violent, very extreme pseudo-military coup backed by the extremist elements. And an unconstitutional, illegal Yunus regime took over state power. After taking over state power, what they did? From mass arrest and detentions of Awami League activists, custodial torture, extrajudicial killings, to the formal ban of the largest political party of Bangladesh, Awami League, the Yunus regime has done it all. And the extremity of their crackdown on Awami League and its activists has been so severe that it caught the eyes of international human rights organizations again. In a recent letter to the interim government head Yunus, Human Rights Watch, Civicus, Fortify Rights, Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Watch, and Tech Global Institute expressed their concern regarding the broad ban on Awami League. They especially focused on the abuse of the judiciary that the Yunus government is doing to crack down on Awami League. They observed that if this trend continues, Bangladesh will lose its track from the multi-party democracy that the country has been in. From the journalists to anyone having anything to do with the 1971 Liberation War, none have been able to escape the crackdown of the Yunus government. To understand how monstrous the crackdown has been, we have to look at some numbers. According to a report by Risk and Analysis Group, within the first 100 days of taking over, 272,000 people, 272,000 people have been implicated in 1,598 criminal cases, most of them being the political opponent. And these cases later converted into actual arrest of tens of thousands of Awami League activists and any critics of the government. As we will discuss in later section, you will see that from cracking down on freedom of assembly to killing the activists while they are in prison, they are doing everything that directly attacks Article 21 and Article 22 of the ICCPR. So this is overall scenario, Mr. Alom, that we are seeing today. Back to you.
Thank you, Jihan. As we could see here, that it's gross. Even a fraction of it happens in any democracy. International organization and international bodies will become like very critical of it, and they would take action. In Bangladesh's case as well, that it may not be as soon as we needed actions very sooner, but at some later point, we see that international bodies and human rights organizations and many other countries are raising their voice, their concerns. Especially, we have seen the statement from the Human Rights Watch, which happened last week. And it's not just about ICCPR, it's Bangladesh's constitution too. Several provisions of Bangladeshi constitution has been violated. As we know, Bangladesh has a constitution that could be seen as, or many would argue, one of the best constitutions of the world. A few, except for a few provisions for sure. However, today, because Muhammad Yunus and his interim regime, they do not actually respect the Bangladeshi constitution. Violation of the constitution of Bangladesh has become a central tenet of this government. So we are going to emphasize on ICCPR, which Yunus must, because in Yunus's government, we know that Muhammad Yunus, we know Adilur Rahman Shubro. These people are from the international human rights establishment. They make their bread and butter, as well as Rejwana Chaudhry Bonna. These people make their bread and butter from human rights. They are involved in the human rights movement in worldwide. So my first question to Professor Billah, that Bangladesh has ratified the ICCPR in the year 2000, yet within months of this interim government's arrival, public assembly has been criminalized. How do these bans violate Article 21?
Thank you very much for getting connected with me. Such a pleasure to find myself amongst other co-discussions, including my colleague Barrister Tapos Kantibol and Anwar Jihan. Now, look, it sounds very ridiculous and a kind of irony to me when you say that a big political party and the founding political party of a country has been banned and by a transitional government and arguably an unconstitutional and illegal government. Such an irony of fate is a very travesty to democratic values and principles. Second irony, it sounds to me, Tanoi Alom, you mentioned that Bangladesh ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, one of the leading human rights instruments in the world, in 2000. Not the year 2000. It means Sheikh Hasina was in power. Now, when you say that she ratified this, it doesn't mean simply a year or a mere simple activity. It also means it is the time when, as a political party and as a government of herself, her commitment to international law and making Bangladesh's law at par with the international standard. That's also the time when another international document was ratified. And I can give you many other statistics when it is seen that under her auspices of government, Bangladesh has been a party to international human rights documents and has expressed Bangladesh's commitment. Now, it is ironic that that very party has been banned by an illegal and unconstitutional government. Now, look at this article which you have just mentioned, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, 1966. The audience, you know that in 1966 there was this twine international human rights document, ICESCR and ICCPR, and Article
We had
21.
UDHR as well at that point, which was
Right.
from 1958.
And protocol, yes. And it guarantees, right, peaceful assembly. And not only that, Bangladesh's constitution in Article 37 echoes the right and freedom of peaceful assembly. When I say freedom, that also give a wider canvas, not merely a right, it is a freedom. You cannot easily curtail it, right? So that's a right which lies at the very heart of participatory democracy, democratic values and principles. The covenant, however, allows certain restrictions, but that is very specific, that those restrictions must be lawful, must be necessary, and must be proportionate. And there are some grounds it has mentioned that it should be on the ground of public safety and others. So the texture of the article itself says it is a freedom. It is one of the crux of human rights, very pinpoint of human rights. You can only make exceptions subject to the excuse of public safety, public order, or state security like that. So there is a specific interpretation scope of this kind of exceptions. So what we are observing since October 2024, that a blanket provisions have been replaced by not by any reasoned regulations, public rallies, including
I would like to add this to Professor Dr. Billa, is that the Bangladeshi constitution itself accommodated UDHR long before ICCPR, Bangladesh ratified. When Bangladeshi Constitutional Assembly and in 1971 and 1972, when they sat together, they drafted the constitution in a way that accommodates all the universal codes of human rights, such as U.S. Bill of Rights, French Declaration of French Revolution, and UDHR. These are accommodated in Bangladesh's constitution as well. So when we say Bangladesh had a very good constitution, it's because that UDHR, all the universal codes of human rights, accepted code, are accommodated in Bangladesh. Now, my question to Barrister Tapash is that banning the Awami League altogether, what does that mean under Article 22 of ICCPR?
Thank you. And it's always a pleasure to be in this program along with my colleague and dear friend, Dr. Billa, and you as well. I would like to say that this Article 22, you cannot just see it as a single provision, because it has been born out of Article 20 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, right? Over there, you will see that both this Article 21 and 22, both of them together came out of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, if we go back into the history, you will see that all the feudal lords, even the lords, kings, and emperors, they were always the time afraid of freedom, like freedom of expression and opinion, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, all these kinds of things they were actually afraid of, because these are the ways you can question the authority of that certain regime or that certain authority, whoever it is. So what is happening over here is that the politics of Awami League is banned, saying that under anti-terrorist or anti-terror law, that was banned. So, and when we talk about freedom of association, we are not only talking about freedom of association of political parties. We are talking about freedom of association of worker rights as well. You know that ILO Convention 87 also has freedom of association. Now, altogether, there is a blanket ban on freedom of association of not only Awami League, of all sorts of political organizations it has. For example, it has Awami League, Shramik League, right? So Awami Shramik League cannot act, and they cannot.
When we say Awami Shramik League, it's the organization for the labor forces.
Right. So for the labor forces, and they cannot raise their voice for the rights of the laborers in Bangladesh. So why Yunus regime is afraid of freedom of association? They are not afraid that Awami League is going to commit a terror act. No, because Awami League is not known for that. They just wanted to suppress their voice. They wanted to say that you cannot hold a procession, you cannot use your office. Look what they have done. They have, they have illegally occupied every single office of Awami League. So who gives you the authority to do that? You have not legally banned me. You have just banned through the use of a poripotro, and you are saying that I cannot do the politics. So now the decision which Dr. Billah said, now if we look into the proportionality of the decision, whether this decision was a proportional decision, whether the decision was a just decision, that those are the things that we have to measure. We cannot just deny or just do passing comments. Now, how do we know that whether it was a proportional decision? Now we have to look into the reasonableness of the decision. Was Awami League, as I questioned earlier, that was Awami League a terrorist organization? No. Awami League is the political party which brought independence to Bangladesh, which
brought the idea of Bangladesh even.
The total idea of Bangladesh. An interesting thing is that this peaceful assembly and freedom of association, both are the fountains of Bangladesh. Because if you remember that our supreme leader, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, for how many days he was in prison? For how many times Awami League was banned? Awami League was not banned for the first time in Bangladesh. It was banned earlier as well in Pakistan era. So in all those times, always the time they were banned so that they cannot exercise their democratic right as a political party. So that they cannot.
Taposh, you mentioned anti-terror laws, which has been used in this case. Can you explain us anti-terror law, and legally, is it possible to use anti-terror law in this case?
It is not possible to use anti-terror law in this case, because you have to look into what happened in last 15 years. How Awami League banned political entities from exercising their political rights. For example, Harkatul Jihad, right? So when a large number of its activists were arrested, then the whole judicial process was completed and declared that these Harkatul Jihad or Hizbut Tahrir, they are a terrorist organization.
Also, we must mention that Harkatul Jihad and Hizbut Tahrir, These organizations are terrorist outfits banned by many other countries in the world.
Absolutely, but
Especially Hizb ut-Tahrir is banned in Germany and many other countries, also, as well as Harkatul Jihad. Harkatul Jihad is a complete terrorist outfit.
so, Mr. Alam, I just want to mention that that whole judicial process inquiry under which was free and fair, that went through because their lawyers were present there questioning the decision of the court over and over again. Now, you may remember that in 2013, the registration of Jamati Islami was also cancelled. Did Awami League government cancel that arbitrarily? No. It was the decision of the court, which was the High Court division, which was then referred to the Appellate division, and then after the decision of the Appellate division, the government banned its activities and revoked its registration with the Election Commission. Not before that. So every single time there was this judicial inquiry. When there is judicial inquiry, then you can say
But
that it
we must mention here there is a distinction between Bangladesh Awami League and Jamaat Islami. Jamaat Islami is known for its terrorist activities. It was actually listed terrorist organization by an organization in United States. There is student wing, Islamic Chhatra Shibir. Also, Jamaat Islami is known for its war crimes committed in 1971 against the Bangladeshi people.
I was just coming to that remember that in the International Crimes Tribunal, by 2013, 7-8 judgments were already pronounced by the tribunal. And in each and every judgment, it was mentioned that Jamati Islami is a terrorist organization. It was its Chhatro Shangho, its student wing back in 1971. Now Shibir is a terrorist organization. So, in spite of that finding by the tribunal, the government did not revoke their license. So, what the government did, government went through the judicial process. They took the judgment and the verdict from the court of the apex court, and only after that they banned it. So,
now we know, Barrister Taposh, that Muhammad Yunus, Rejwana Chaudhry Bonna, Adidur Rahman Shubro, these people are
not Rejwana Chaudhry Bonna. It's Rejwana. It should be enough. Chaudhry Bonna is a different.
Rejwana.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. Rejwana. These people are actually members of the international human rights activism and the establishment. And when the government, led by them, they violate ICCPR 21 and 22, the articles. Is it ethical, Dr. Billah?
Not only ethical, but also controversial in parlance of law. Right? So when you speak about application of a law, you also need to consider the context. Under what context the law was actually enacted and formulated. Look at the political background of enacting the 2009 anti-terrorism law. It was actually has a long history. If you can just hold the camera from 2001, 111 incident, then if you focus on Bangladesh, the rise of extremism and militancy all throughout Bangladesh, bombardment all throughout 64 districts in Bangladesh during 2004 to 2005. Then you can also mention the rise of JMB, other militant activities. So at the advent of this background, the law was enacted firstly by an ordinance of the caretaker government, then it was confirmed as an act in 2009. So it was a commitment of Bangladesh that the Bangladesh's law should make an anti-terrorism law to check and control the transnational crimes and it was also a commitment of Bangladesh to make Bangladesh's obligation at par with international standard to carve out international terrorism. Now, coming to this regime, that we see it has been misapplied, and the law has been misused because of two reasons. One is power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The government holds unaccountable power, unchecked power, rampant power. They have no obligation and accountability to the people for any decisions they are making. As such, they are exercising blanketly and arguably banning normal political parties by misusing the term public safety, public order, state security, etc. Secondly, as Barrister Ball has rightly mentioned, that the judiciary is not being allowed to function independently and properly. No one can challenge the legality and constitutionality of banning this political party. As such, I see it a completely weaponization of law. The Anti-Terrorism Act is being actually used as an weapon to suppress the dissident political opinion. That's the travesty of it. The paradox is that they are also doing another paradox by saying that, okay, we have not banned Awami League, we have banned only the activities of Awami League. That means that they are making a subtle difference between them, whereas actually there is no difference between them. That if you ban someone's activities, assembly, freedom of speech, right to challenge, carrying out communications with your members, so everything that virtually means that the organization itself is banned. Whereas if you compare that with previous regimes, where even the members of the current caretaker government questioning the abuse of anti-terrorism law, they themselves are misusing the law by now. So thing is that this kind of law is necessary for a state to carve out terrorism, but the unaccountable government who is assuming the power at the moment, they are misusing the law and using as a semantic tool to take the advantage of the power of the term public safety and security. So I would submit that this is a complete misapplication of the anti-terrorism law and a wrong act. A good judge or a good reformer can make a good law sing, or can make a bad law make a good law applied in a bad manner, whereas a good politician or reformer can use the bad law in a very good manner. So in this case, it has been that the anti-terrorism law is actually suppressing the dissident voice, and thereby it has arguably the intonation of anti-constitutional act.
I mean, there is a distinction between the rule of law and rule by law, isn't
True.
it?
True.
So they're doing it like a rule by law, not rule of law. And we have seen
just to add a comment on that, for example, if you refer to Article 31 of Bangladesh's constitution, it says that in accordance with law, now law should be taken both in substantive sense of the term and the procedural sense of the term. If we express it in a very single phrase, we can call it due process. So due process of law must be maintained in any kind of activities, which is absent in this case.
I mean, in this month, we have seen Bangladesh Awami League activists. They tried to organize rallies, like all over the capital, twice this month. Once 272 of their activists, according to police, were arrested, and once last week, 141 of them were arrested. And did you see any action that could violate the public safety in those rallies at Tapashkanti Bao?
Can you rephrase the question one more time, please?
That have you seen any actions that could violate the public safety. And when Awami League activists held rallies this month twice, they have tried, and 272 of them were arrested by the police, and 141 again arrested by the police from the same city, Dhaka city. And when they were sent, okay, their bails were like blanket denial by the court. Even there were restriction if some lawyer tries to take the court case. Okay, there are very brave lawyers who are taking the case, but there are also lawyers who are afraid that if they take this case and defend that Awami League supporters in the court, there would be a repercussion from the government. But have you seen anything that could say that okay, these activists of Awami League jeopardize public safety?
I haven't seen anything that the activists who are participating in these rallies are doing anything to jeopardize anyone. They are just holding the rallies as peacefully as possible and even ending it within a short distance so that local people are not disturbed, so that there are no traffic jams. And they are definitely, I have seen the body language says that they wanted to avoid all sorts of conflicts as well with local authority and as well as with political rivals. All sorts of senses are there. So
then Barrister Taposh, what is government's justification for this arrest and denial of the bail? How did the justification?
Government has no justification or denial of the bail. The simple thing is that they are afraid that if they allow Bangladesh Awami League to thrive on the streets, people will be brought to the streets. They will come to the streets themselves voluntarily, and they will start asking questions to the authority, to the regime of Dr. Yunus. Right?
So it's basically politics of fear.
Absolutely. It's not only politics of fear. Come on. The first thing is that they are lust for politics. Right? They have a lust to be on the power. Today, Mahfouz, their advisor to Information Ministry, is telling people that, look, you are scalding Dr. Yunus on TV, media, podcast, and everywhere. So there is freedom of expression. You let a few people to talk does not mean that there is freedom of expression. Let us
actually this is staged, isn't it? Like, okay, they have created a few people who are going to criticize them on a stage. It's just a stage on the media, but there is a distinction. There are some people who are actually encouraged by these people that, okay, if they can criticize, I can criticize as well. Let's say a journalist, Anis Alamgir, the very senior journalist in Bangladesh. And we have seen that Murtaza, the press minister in US Embassy, appointed by Muhammad Yunus, he is threatening Anis Alamgir that if you criticize this government, you'll be subject to investigation. We have seen this. So they have created a few goons. Okay, you guys.
Mr. Alam, let's not forget, Mr. Alam, let us not forget about Professor Karjon. Let us not forget about senior journalist Panna and others who were arrested just because of they were exercising their constitutional right of freedom of expression. They were criticizing the government for violating the principles of the Constitution.
Professor Billah, does it somehow remind you of let 100 flowers blossom, the Chinese policy, Mao policy?
What was that? Can you explain it to me? Sorry for my ignorance.
Under Mao Zedong, the Chinese policy, okay, first the Cultural Revolution, let everyone speak, the flowers blossom. Then when they speak, okay, they are persecuted. Because
Right.
Anis Alamgir's case and Dr. Karzan's case, journalist Panda's case, that's a reminder of that, because
Right.
they let few people speak, which encourages others to speak. So, but these few people can speak, okay, because they are staged, and the others they cannot. When others speak, they're threatened, they're jailed, they're tortured.
Right. So I would say like this: it's a policy of silencing the dissident voice. So you can term it anything than acceptable in human rights lexicon and democratic values. It is a state of not only prosecution. It's a state of persecution. So thing is that by weaponizing the police and the intelligence apparatus against the specific political parties, their thoughts, the current government has turned into a state of persecutor. And when you see that a nation's political party, largest political party, is hunted rather than heard, it is not a governance. You cannot say that it's a governance. It's a political cleansing. Right. So there is no state. It's a state of fear.
Let's say Bangladesh Awami League.
Mr. Alam, I will just add two things. One word Dr. Billah said is rule of law. Another word is natural justice. What does it mean? It means that if you take a decision against me, which is going to adversely affect me, then I have the right to complain to you, number one, and also I have the right to ask you that why you are imposing these sort of punishment or penalty or decision against me and the legality of it. And even I can ask, who are you? What kind of authority do you have?
And if you ask this question to Muhammad Yunus government or a court in Bangladesh, what would be the answer? Can you actually can you file a writ against this government in the High Court of Bangladesh?
Right now, there is no lawyer who can do it. It's not that they don't want to. It's basically if they do, every single one of them have their own family, right? So if they do, their family will suffer. Only because of that, these lawyers are not doing it. We have seen in the former Chief Justice Khairul Haq's hearing just 2 days before, when his lawyers asked for the hearing, the state said, okay, Attorney General is coming. All the senior lawyers are sitting. And then they waited for the Attorney General, and the Attorney General didn't come. And when this was questioned, the junior associate Attorney Generals, they jumped on the table in front of the judge. The judges are on the dais. And then they wanted to beat senior lawyers. Can you imagine that?
In the premise of the court.
Oh, come on, inside the courtroom. Like there is this hearing is going on, and in the hearing, the senior lawyers, they question that why the Attorney General is not coming.
Of the judges? In the presence of the judges?
In the presence of the judges, yes.
And what did the judge did?
Till now, the judges didn't do anything against these assistant attorney generals.
But as we know, Bangladesh actually had quite a free court system, legal system, especially our High Court and Supreme Court are free and fair. And during the last 15 years of our Awami League government, we have seen High Court and our courts actually ruling against Bangladesh Awami League government and its leaders, okay, in several occasions.
That is because judiciary was free and fair. There is a judges association as well. So if the government took any negative steps against a judge for giving a ruling against the government, the association would have, protested. They would have written letters. It has happened so many times. Dr. Billah so many times took the help of his Facebook account and said so many things against Awami League government for disturbing the fairness of judiciary.
So did I. So did I, because for the last 14, 15 years, I have been writing columns on Dhaka Tribune, one of Bangladesh's top newspaper. And each and every column I wrote, I have never written a column in favor of Bangladesh Awami. I have always written against Bangladesh Awami.
Think
I have
about
not against, I criticized always Bangladesh Awami.
right. Think about the freedom of association. That always the time, if there is an association of journalists, if there is an association of lawyers, even teachers, there is always the time someone from the opposite party, someone from the BNP, someone from the left-wing political parties were there. It's not about
Jihan,
only
I have a question for Jihan too. Jihan, you are also a columnist of Bangladesh Observer, one of the oldest English language newspaper in Bangladesh. In the last 15 years, like, see, you're not writing since 15 years, you're too young for that. But have you ever written a column during Awami League's tenure praising the government?
Hardly any. All my columns have been vocal criticism of the government while I saw any mistakes or any wrong decision being made by the government. And fortunately, they actually published our column. But right now, there is no dissent. We cannot raise our voice. Bangladesh Observer, Daily Star, or Dhaka Tribune, you name it. Any slight criticism, they would not publish. They would not dare to publish.
Okay, now, Jihan, do you have some more slides for us?
Yes, so like Barrister Ball said that the lawyers are scared about their families, right? So when they're cracking down on the Awami League activists or they're arresting them on fake fabricated charges, and if they cannot find the activists themselves, they would go and arrest their family members. We have seen a cancer patient wife of a councillor in Chittagong taken into custody, who did not even have any charges against her. And this is all happening right under the watch of these unconstitutional occupying forces. We have seen this year before March, when our 7th March and 26th March were coming, the press secretary of the Yunus government, a so-called human rights promoter, this gentleman, he openly declared that any distributors of leaflet of the Awami League would be cracked down, would be arrested. For what? For what reason? Is it a crime to distribute leaflet? And the law is so vague that even here we are discussing a topic related to Awami League. There may be charges, fake charges against us as well. It is not only on the streets that they are cracking down. You cannot attend or do any activism in support of the largest political party of Bangladesh. We are seeing crazy, insane remarks from the law enforcement agencies of Bangladesh. The police has recently offered a reward of 5,000 Bangladeshi taka on each head, as if the Awami League activists are not human. I mean, they are on the streets peacefully protesting, demanding that the ban be lifted and this unconstitutional, brutal crackdown on them be stopped. But the police, they are offering reward to anyone who would help them to catch an Awami League activist. We have seen in last month when the Awami League activists were on the streets in Dhaka, 244 Awami League leaders, activists were arrested. Last week, I believe, 131 more were arrested. And these are the official numbers. Okay, there may be many more. And these are not isolated incidents. This is a pattern to attack the Article 21 and Article 22 of the ICCPR. They are curtailing the rights to freedom of expression, freedom of association, and freedom of assembly of a large electorate base of Bangladesh. Bangladesh Awami League is the largest political party of Bangladesh. It has more than 40% support of the country, as Mr. Alam rightly said. So when you shut down the voice of 40%, I don't know what what sort of democracy is this? We haven't heard of a democracy like this. And
As we analyze, or if we analyze the Bangladesh's elections since 1991, when we started our democratic journey, we would see 41.5 to 42% total vote. Means you can form a government with vast majority.
right.
So Bangladesh Awami League is always within distance of forming a government. 40% it's the reserve vote of the country.
And we are seeing message from the people that people would not go to vote because they don't have the vote. They don't have their party, so they would boycott this election. And this election can never be democratic in any sense, and the international community must not accept it. And besides this crackdown, we have seen reports of extrajudicial killings and custodial deaths. Justice Makers Bangladesh or France has recently conducted a study that we have discussed very elaborately a couple months back. So I would just point out the brief numbers here, not waste so much time on the details. There have been 70 deaths in 60 incidents, extrajudicial killings, okay? And more than 50% were done by the security forces, and 45% of those died in custody. And victims are not only the Awami League activists, they are family members or anyone who has anything to do with Awami League. Not all are big leaders of Awami League, right? But they support the Awami League. This is their fault. And 90% of the families are today too afraid to seek justice, to demand protection. This is very grim, Mr. Alam.
When in 2014, 2015, the terrorist Al-Qaeda were killing the bloggers in Bangladesh, I had the opportunity to help many bloggers. I had the opportunity to speak to most of them. And whenever I spoke to them about their families and I asked, what's about the safety of your family? They used to say this, oh, the Al-Qaeda terrorists, they do not go after family members.
So the Yunus regime is even surpassing the Al-Qaeda terrorists. They're going after the innocent.
The ethics Al-Qaeda terrorists have, Yunus regime do not have that ethics. Even Al-Qaeda terrorists has better ethics.
Alam, I have to say that after Mr. Anwar Sadat's presentation, you can see that how many things the Yunus regime is, or institutions Yunus regime is using to curb freedom of association and peaceful assembly. First of all, police is there. Second of all, they have used mob and their own,
we have seen the advisors, home advisors, and the illegal advisor Asif Mahmood instructing the military to go and kill innocent civilians in Gopalganj. It is
exactly.
Actually, on that note about the mobs, I have this question for you, because mob lynching under Yunus government, Yunus regime, has become a reality in Bangladesh. In the past 14 months, it has been reported by several Bangladeshi media and human rights organizations that the exact number is probably 590. 590 people died because of mob attacks, mob lynching.
But are they really mob attack? Because the same faces were...
I have this question. I have the best of the question. And now we see Dhaka Metropolitan Police, the police under Muhammad Yunus, is instructing the people that you'll be rewarded 5,000 taka, Bangladeshi taka, if you attack and hand over a Bangladesh Awami League supporters to us. How gross is this ethically and from a legal point of view? This is my question to both of you, Barrister Tapash Kantibong and Dr. Billah.
I will just finish the thing I started, that together with police, mob, and political fronts, they are now using judiciary as well and law to weaponize and stop people enjoying their freedom of association and peaceful assembly. Coming back to these gross use, and then you were talking about mob lynching, right? I don't think these are mob lynching, because if you look at the videos, you will see the same faces are coming back and back again in front of different activists of Bangladesh Awami League. So if the same faces are coming back and back again, then that means there is a group of killers who are being instructed by someone is hunting you down and killing you, and they are just staging these mob, nothing more than that. Now, coming back to the question is that absolutely there is no sort of legal validity of what type of actions they are taking. There is no legal validity at all, because if what Dr. Billah said, that a good law can be used as a weapon. The moment you use it without judicial sanction, you use it arbitrarily, without any proportion and reasonable reason, that moment the use of that law becomes illegal. I will hand it back to Dr. Billah.
Right. I have nothing much to add except expressing my deep concern and alarm. The statistics just has been shown in the presentations by Mr. Jahan. These figures show that they are not dealing with sporadic excesses, but with a pattern of persecution. Right? It is against any set canons, for example, established by Human Rights Committee. And the similar situations has been termed as
the actual number of arrests is
political
even
exclusion. So I discovered a kind of pattern in Bangladesh: deaths, disappearances, torture. It meets all the threshold of this pattern of persecution. So thing is, if you say that this is rule of law, this is something which is done under the shadow or canopy of law, I'm not, as a law academic, I'm not aware and heard of any kind of law. That reminds me of the famous decision of Antique versus Carrington, Barrister Ball, which was decided by the English House of Lords back in 1765, that if this is law, it should have been found in the book. If it is not there, it is not a law. So thing is that that our law holds the property, body, sanctity of every man so sacred that no man can set his foot upon his neighbor's hand, let alone arresting the people. The Constitution of Bangladesh has regarded body, property, reputation, right to life, etc., as a part of human dignity. So you cannot violate it. So it has been encroached every now and then. You have rightly mentioned that even arbitrary change in the law. Look at the ICT law, which has been changed morning and the evening at their own whim. Look at the trial of the ex-Chief Justice whose dispensation, judicial opinion is under review, yet he is being tried, not being granted any bail. Look at that any kind of remedy the lawyers will not get from the judges who actually have been appointed not by the president constitutionally, but by the mob themselves. So totally, this is a state of lawlessness. Under this, I found that the framework, which has been set by Article 21 and 22 of the ICCPR and Articles 37 and 38 of Bangladesh Constitution, it has merely turned into a, what should I say, maze or a ships of paper, not constitutional guarantee. This is sad. This is not acceptable.
Pastor Tapash, actually, I know you would like to add some more points, and this is a subject we can go on and on and on, because
can I quickly add one thing here? We must not forget that everything Adolf Hitler did was legal, and everything the freedom fighters did to rescue a Jew was deemed illegal, according to Martin Luther King. So no matter whether say that what they are doing is legal, it is not. Cracking down on dissents, cracking down on opposition, muzzling the voices of hundreds of thousands of people can never be democratic.
Thank
Democracy.
you so much. We know the stake is high, 71 people. These are like, we are not just speaking about freedom of assembly and freedom of association. The people whose rights are violated, 325,000 of them were arrested in the jail. The jails have like gruesome condition right now because jail are like overcrowded. Bangladesh do not have just such capacity because Bangladeshi people, we are not criminals. Okay, the crime rate in Bangladesh is not so high. That's why we build bridges, we build ports, we build
Sorry for the
infrastructure. We didn't
intervention.
build. Yes.
Tolaiv, sorry for the interruption. Even the picture is graver than that. I have notes from the jail where a sordid picture has come out. Even the women in prison, they have been denied bail days after days, and they are being given once the court is giving bail, but she is being held in another case and again incarcerated. So the total picture even is not conducive to women prisoners. Such a grave violation of human rights.
I know of a younger brother of mine. I call him a brother. His father is 80-year-old. His father was arrested because Alfred Mamoun, the person I call brother, very young boy, he is organizing secretary of a district unit of Bangladesh League, the Bangladesh Awami League student wing. They couldn't find Alfred Mamoun, so they arrested his father, who is 80-year-old and severely ill. Then, when he was granted a bail, from the jail gate, he was arrested again and he is still in jail. This is why exactly I have said that even Al-Qaeda terrorists has some ethics. Muhammad Yunus and his government, their ethics is lesser than Al-Qaeda terrorists. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our time was limited, and we will meet you next week again for Persecution Report with another episode. For now, for the international community, it is our urge to you to act. Yunus is denying accountability to Bangladeshi people. So it is time for the international community to make Yunus hold accountable. All we want in Bangladesh is the free and fair elections and our basic rights, such as freedom of expression, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, freedom of association. Thank you so much. See you next week.